Hello and welcome to All About Billings. We are a show dedicated to discovering the people who make Billings a great place to work and live. We will interview local business people, community leaders, artists, entertainers, and learn from them all about their successes, their failures, and their connection to Billings. I'm your host, Nancy Brook, broker and owner at Billings Best Real Estate. And today it is my pleasure to have as my guest Mitch Bohn with AccessBillings.
Nancy,
welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Nancy. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. Well, first of all, let's just get started with who you are and how you started AccessBillings.
Yeah, so I am a born and raised Montanan and been in Billings since I was 11 years old. And growing up in a wheelchair and with a disability, I always kind of saw some of the, I don't want to say discrepancies, but just some of the lack of wheelchair access and just handicap access in general in Billings. And so I had grown more and more frustrated with that as I had gotten into my 20s. And now that I'm 30, I have this nonprofit that we started to make a difference for that rather than just be frustrated and share that frustration, actually making a change for our community.
So now, have you been in the wheelchair for most of your life?
Most of my life, yes. So I've always been disabled, but I walked with a brace as a walker up until middle school. And then I went to Will James Middle School, and it was just too crowded and 8-minute passing periods, so I transitioned to the wheelchair then.
Okay. Well, and I think just people who aren't in a wheelchair or don't have a physical disability, I don't even think it crosses your mind. I mean, and it's not that we don't care, it's just that we're not aware.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing you're up against.
Exactly. Most of the places that I have brought this awareness to, or my board or whoever has brought this awareness to, you're exactly right. It's not that they don't care about the accessibility, it's that they strictly either didn't know or hadn't had that need in their life, and so they just didn't have it in their business. For the most part, we've had businesses that have been super open to us and super willing to change.
And so what is your role in AccessBillings? What do you do as a nonprofit?
Yeah, so I'm the president is my role, and so what we do is we really want to work with those small businesses, so the small to medium-sized businesses that maybe don't have the funds to make the changes that they need in their business to become handicap accessible, but they want to. And so like our first project is with Erica Lip Photography, and she had a raised floor in her studio. So our nonprofit worked with a contractor, Phil Bauer, who went in with his crew and built a ramp so that she no longer has a step for her raised floor, so that everybody is able to experience her photography studio.
That's really interesting. I used to be in a building, Solar Plaza, that has, basically you walk in and you can either go upstairs or downstairs, and there's no elevator. But the problem that I've heard from the previous owner who used to own it is that it's so expensive to modify the building, which was built in the 70s, to make it accessible. Do you find that is the case with a lot of business owners?
Yes. If there are needs that to make a handicap accessible, it is expensive, and we as a nonprofit acknowledge that. And so what we are hoping to do is help bridge that gap so that there's no barrier for them to become handicap accessible.
And so that involves like raising funds, applying for grants?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now since we're in the phase of trying to find smaller projects to where we can go more on the fundraising side, and then we will transition to grants because we want to make bigger changes and do bigger projects down the road.
So what inspired you to start this organization? I mean, it's kind of a big undertaking. I mean, you're a young man.
It is a big undertaking, and really it's self-induced a little bit. It's my frustration of walking into businesses that were not fit for me, but then also seeing the bigger picture of we have a lot of disabled people in our community, whether that be physically like me or on the autism spectrum or just elderly and the veteran community, and just seeing that if I'm feeling this way about certain businesses around town. I'm sure there are other people as well that are feeling that way about businesses I don't even know about. And why not make a nonprofit or an organization that can help it so that people coming to Billings or that are in Billings don't feel that anymore?
And you make a good point, because it might be a disability that you don't really see. So, I mean, it's obvious you're in a wheelchair.
Right.
But somebody could have something like autism where you don't really notice it, but it could limit some of their access to organizations, to buildings, right?
Exactly, and actually it's really neat. So most of my board has some form of a disability, and my disability is the only one that is outwardly visible every day. So it's really cool to see it through their eyes, and also to, expand my horizons, because obviously I see disability through a very narrow lens of what I need, but there are so many other disabilities out there that just are not being overlooked, but that we just need to be more aware of and fulfill their needs as well.
So what would access look like to somebody who has a disability, but maybe not in a wheelchair, or is ambulatory? What sorts of things might you uncover?
Yeah, so for somebody that's ambulatory, like I'll use the autism spectrum for example, it could be lighting. For them, maybe the fluorescent lighting isn't great for them, for their senses, so just having that dimmer or something like that, having an area where they can go if they are overstimulated to decompress and be okay for a bit. Just making every space just accommodating, basically, for whatever the disability might be.
So, like, for example, let's say somebody goes into like a mall. That would be a good example where maybe there's fluorescent lights, it's like a lot of people, overly stimulating, plus you've got lots of space that you have to cover a distance in. So that would be an example of some place where, can we have just an area that's a little more serene, not so noisy, away from people?
And it's really cool. So actually, there's a lot of places already doing this in more metro areas. So like Major League Baseball ballparks, I'm a huge baseball fan, so of course I'm going to bring it back to that. But a lot of ballparks have already sensory areas for people that need to just take that time away from 40,000 people screaming and being rowdy fans. They have those spaces in the ballpark already. So I think in Billings, we could do that fairly easily for our places of high volume.
Right, and I think, there's probably an advocacy role as well with what you do, right? Because, like I said, I mean, I would try to be accommodating, but I'm just not aware of what the concerns are or the issues are. So I would think advocating for people who have situations that need accommodating.
100%. I think that's almost half of it for us, is the advocacy end of it, because also part of it also is disabled people go through so much in their day-to-day life, whether it be doctors or whatever, just living day-to-day, that so many people with disabilities don't want to advocate. They just want to live. And so if there's people like myself or my board that are there advocating for them, that's taking one less thing off of their plate that they have to do for the day. And so that's kind of another bridge that we want to have.
So what are you doing to get out in the community and learn about where those areas are that you can assist?
Yeah, so right now what we've been doing is, it was great during the summer. We started in May, and so we were at a lot of the festivals downtown. So we went to Pride Festival, Strawberry Festival, we went to Harvest Festival just a couple of weekends ago. And there we just listened to people. We asked them, hey, where are areas around town that you see accessibility issues? And so we listened to them. We put all of it in a Google form so that we can know all of these areas and address it. And then, we also have a website where people can comment on their own and send us emails of areas around town. We're very vocal on Facebook. And so again, that's another avenue where people can comment to us or send us a message that, hey, we went into so-and-so business and they're not being handicap accessible for whatever reason.
Right.
So we are very open to the public suggestions as well.
Well, I love the fact that you're being advocates. You're not trying to put businesses down that don't have accessibility, but just make them aware and advocate for people who want to access those businesses.
Exactly. We do not want to put businesses down. We want to work with the businesses and build them up while also, of course, advocating for the accommodations that are needed.
Yeah. Well, what made you decide to start a nonprofit? I mean, that's, you could be an advocate without necessarily starting a whole movement. That's pretty impressive.
Right. So actually, what started the nonprofit side of it was I was doing the advocating on my own.
Sure.
And I was doing more of the calling out than being productive, and I will admit that, but that was also being frustrated with things. And a lot of it came back to it was my name out there. And so businesses, when it's one person, sometimes are not as receptive.
Oh, sure.
Rather than, hey, this is an organization that's looking to help us.
Right.
And so I took that as the thought of, okay, let's start a nonprofit. It's still, I'm the president of the nonprofit, but it's a nonprofit name that if we go to a business and say, hey, you need to do this to help us be more handicap accessible, they might be more willing to oblige to that than it just being one person going in.
Well, I also love the fact that you broaden your horizons by listening to others. Mm-hmm. So having a board of people who also have disabilities that are different than yours,
right,
going out into the community to these different events, mm-hmm, and hearing from people in the community what it is that they would like to see.
Right.
So I think that actually makes it just have more movement to it.
It does, yeah. And Billings is a big town, but it's also small. It's big in size.
Right.
So I don't go over to the Heights very often, so I don't know their accessibility issues over in the Heights. And so it's really great to go to these events where all parts of town come together and we get to hear from them. And our board too, we have some West End people, we have Heights people, we bring that all together so that we're one big community that wants to make all of Billings accessible. So
what has probably been the most surprising thing that you've learned?
Surprising thing that I've learned, I think for me it's how quickly things get out. So we were just at Harvest Fest this last weekend, and I mean, we've only been a nonprofit for 5 months, so to have people come up to us and already know who we are was really eye-opening to myself and my board that, hey, we're doing the right thing. People need us and want us in Billings, and it's getting out there really quickly, which for us is awesome.
Wow. So how are you getting the word out?
We literally have just been going to these events. We're very vocal on social media, and doing things like this help us a lot. And we also have our disability awareness forums 2 times a year. So I think having that in July in conjunction with starting our nonprofit helped a lot.
So what does that look like, the forum?
Yeah, so that we have 4 people usually that have a disability, so that live with the experience. And then we also bring together another panel of people that can make a difference in the community. So whether that be, we had somebody from the Downtown Billings Association in the one in July. We had somebody from Visit Billings. We also had the marbles from the Marble Table. And we had the Billings Hotel because they just did their big convention center, which is super handicap accessible. And so it's just bringing that gap together of disabled people talking about the issues in the community, and then bringing together business owners or government officials or what have you that have the ability to make the changes for those in the disabled community.
Well, it seems like since, I don't know when, the 90s, that there has been more of an effort to have things more handicap accessible, especially when you're building new buildings or like sidewalks, they've cut them out so, people can access with wheelchairs instead of having a big curb.
Right.
It seems like it's still not quite enough, though.
It's not.
Yeah.
So the ADA was amazing.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've come across a lot in Billings is because the first 10 years there was a grandfather clause where you had those 10 years to get your buildings up to ADA compliance. People still think that that's a thing 35 years later. It's not. And so that's a barrier that we're having to come across as well. But also, because we're in Montana, our ADA compliance office is in Colorado.
Oh, gotcha.
And so they have their own things in Colorado. And so the chances of them coming up here to enforce any ADA compliance is very hard. And so then it does fall on nonprofits like myself or other entities to kind of enforce it, for lack of better words.
Well, and I would imagine like it's pretty hard for somebody who owns like a small building to try to do all this stuff because they probably just don't have the funds and maybe aren't even aware that this is a requirement. Right,
exactly. And you know, even there are some that are handicap accessible, but they just need to do it in a better way.
Okay.
So like I could think of a couple places that have like the ramps you were talking about, but they're like a pile of asphalt on top of the concrete.
Oh.
That's not exactly, it's handicap accessible.
But it's pretty hard to navigate a wheelchair over.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that maybe we're trying to help out, because that happens quite a bit in Billings.
Sure.
Just like a quick fix, let's get this fixed. It's doable, but it's not sustainable. So, yeah, I think there's a lot with the smaller business owners that try to do things right, but they just do it either quickly or the most cost-effective way possible that maybe in the long run isn't the most handicap accessible.
So what's been the thing that you've learned about starting this organization? How has it changed you personally?
You know, for me, what I've learned is just how many people with disabilities there are in Billings. I knew there was quite a few, but just how many people it affected, I didn't quite know the mass of it. And it's been eye-opening to see how many people, like I said, when we go to these events, just say, thank you for doing this. It's really needed in our community. And just to see how many people it could impact is just amazing.
Well, that's cool. You must feel very rewarded.
Yeah, and I have an amazing board that's helped out with all of this, and it wouldn't be possible without them. So.
Well, and I love the fact that you just were kind of irritated and you wanted some changes to happen, and so you just got started doing it, and as a result, you became just a leader of a cause that you didn't even know was out there. And isn't that amazing? Like you take your step forward and you're able to help so many other people?
It's amazing, yes. Yeah.
Well, that must make you feel great.
Yeah.
Every day waking up going, hey, I'm helping people. And you know, it comes to mind just like I'm thinking people who are older and maybe, you know, they're able to walk, but it's just maybe hard to get, you know, and like Walmart has carts for people, so that's an example of someone who's accommodating. But probably there's a lot of things that I wouldn't know. I have a friend who needs oxygen, and so it's hard for her to navigate in and out of stores. I mean, it's like a big ordeal, so she has to limit where she goes. So I would imagine there's a lot of people who have either situations or just that's how life is right now.
Right. Well, and you were talking about our elderly community. I did a little bit of research on our demographics. Our elderly community is 25% of our population.
Wow.
And so, or close to 25%. So that's a quarter of the people in Billings, so roughly 100 or roughly 30,000 people.
And what do you define elderly? Is there an age range?
65 plus.
Okay, 65. Okay,
yeah.
So people pretty much would be retired at that age.
Yes, exactly, retirement age. And so that's 30,000 people in Billings that either are or will need some sort of mobility aid or are right now. So, and that doesn't even come into account the people under 65 like myself that have a disability.
Right, like I was mentioning, there was somebody who wanted to come to the show, and and we do have an elevator, so you're able to get up here, but it just is a long way, and she walks, and so it was a little hard for her. And so she sent somebody else, which worked out, but you know, I never really thought about that, even just how far a hallway is. Sometimes that can be a deterrent.
It can, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are a deterrent. You know, I mean, I know I was I asked you a lot, like, is there an elevator?
Yeah,
How do I get
right.
up there? That's something that I always have to think about.
Right.
A lot of times for me, we live in Montana. I have to constantly be looking at the weather report as to whether there's going to be snow, because who knows if people are going to plow their parking lots.
Right. Or their sidewalks.
Or their sidewalks.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that I know I have to look out for, and I know that there are other people in Billings that have to look out for these same things. And I'm not saying we need to clear every single parking lot and sidewalk, because that's just not obtainable either. But I think we can just do better as a community and look out for everybody.
You know, and it's like I was saying earlier, it's not that I want to disregard people who have disabilities. It just doesn't even enter my awareness.
Right.
And I think that's got to be half the battle.
I think that 100% is. There have been a couple of restaurants, because that was my main focus at first, was restaurants and bars, that it took us a while to kind of get to them. I'm like, hey, you need to have these lower tables. And I think it was really just they didn't understand. And so we just told them, we're like, hey, you know, people could come in here and they aren't able to get up to the high tops. Mm-hmm. Do you really want to turn them away?
Right.
And they're like, well, no.
Right. So have some accessible tables.
And we're not saying, like, if I were to go into a place that has low top tables and they're all taken, I'm not going to say, hey, can you move them to a high top because I'm here?
Sure.
No, it's...
Wait your turn, of course.
Yeah. But, yeah. We're just saying have them there so that if we do come there and they're free, we're able to sit in your establishment and enjoy it.
Well, and you know, you really bring up a good point with how many people are affected that you wouldn't really think of.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's, you know, it just makes me more aware. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you're trying to do, is get the word out to people like me who never really think about it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is an issue. So when you are thinking about buildings, when you're thinking about where you're going to meet somebody for like a meal, you know, maybe just try to figure out if you have any accommodation needs.
Exactly, yeah. That's exactly almost half of what we do.
Well, and switching gears a little bit, I know you were just a speaker on the TEDx here in
yes,
Billings. So what did you talk about?
So I talked a little bit about both of my loves.
Okay.
So I talked about, I'm a huge sports fan, as I kind of mentioned, but so I talked about loving baseball and not being able to play it. That was the title of my speech, loving something you can't do. And so when I'm not doing the nonprofit stuff, I am the full-time announcer for the Legion program. And then I also have a sports podcast that I do. So I have found a way to belong to what I love, sports, even though I've never been able to actually play them myself.
So what is your podcast name and what do you cover on that?
So it's Wide Left Sports. And what I cover on that is Montana athletes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I get to interview all of the great athletes in our state, and it's been absolutely amazing. I've been doing that for about 4 years.
Oh, good for you. So everyone from high school to college?
High school, college, pros that have Montana ties.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm actually just now expanding outside of Montana a little bit to Alaska. So
who has been your most... biggest interview, I'll say. You know.
Oh, man.
Pro-wise.
So I've had two. One is a little bit controversial, but I've had Alex Singleton. He played for the Bobcats, and now he's on the Broncos.
Okay.
And then I had Ryan Leaf not too long ago.
Okay.
And he has quite the story. He went to prison for a drug problem, and just now how he's overcome that has been quite remarkable. And so his interview was really interesting. Plus, me being originally from Great Falls, he's originally from Great Falls. So it was kind of cool to interview him as well.
And how often do your podcast episodes come out?
So as often as I can get people.
Okay.
I try to at least do one a week.
Okay.
Sometimes it's way more, sometimes it's less. It kind of just depends on when I can get athletes on.
Yeah, well, I have a couple of ideas for you. I'll pass on when we're done.
Awesome, love that.
Don't want to put it out there in case the people don't want to do it, but no, one for sure I'll get you.
Great, that's awesome.
And then also, in addition to the TEDx, I know you're like going to different events, and are you doing speeches elsewhere?
So I am. I have one I can't announce quite yet, but there is another one that I'm working with another person to do, kind of like a school to school. Different speaking, and we're going to bring like 2 or 3 different speakers together, and I will literally be giving my TEDx speech to different schools in the area. So
Well, I mean, I think you have found a way to live your dream.
yeah,
Your dream was to, I guess, play sports, and you kind of are playing in sports.
kind of, yeah, in my own way.
I mean, not physically, but you're doing
yeah,
it.
exactly, yeah.
And so sometimes, I guess the message is figure out a way you can live your dream.
That was exactly the message of the TEDx. Yep.
Yeah. And how was that?
It was really good. Stressful.
Right.
Very stressful. You know, I can have conversations like this all the time. I can do my podcast, no worries. But getting up on that stage and having those bright lights shining on you, there is not anything like it, I will say. It was very nerve-wracking. But,
yeah, right.
no, it was really good. And it was, like I said, very stressful, but very good.
Well, and for those who've never done a TEDx speech, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of practice. You have a coach.
Yes.
You have to hit your time.
Yeah. So you have about, I think it was, they said 12 to 15 minutes was the sweet spot. And so, yeah, they told us that we were a TEDx speaker in February, and the event was in September. So if that tells you anything of the timeline.
So what was it like coming up with your speech? I mean, obviously you had to have some kind of idea of what your speech was going to be about, but then crafting it. So I do speaking, just kind of for fun. I've done it for years. But it's a lot coming up with a speech. It's not an easy thing.
It's not an easy thing. Thankfully for me, it was my life story. And so it wasn't too terribly hard to come up with it. The hardest part for me actually was the title, because I didn't know what to name it at all, and you had to come up with the title for it. And so thankfully one of the other TEDx speakers heard what I was talking about, and she was like, "This is the title." And I'm like, "Great, I'm running with that. Thank you for making that easy for me."
What was the title?
Loving Something You Can't Do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So very obvious.
Yeah, very obvious. And so I ran with that the entire way, and yeah, but no, the crafting of it was very difficult, you know, finding out what you wanted to put in, what you didn't, having to meet that 15-minute window. And I will tell you, there was like 2 months beforehand where I met with my coach, and she was like, "Mitch, you got to add like 6 minutes to this thing. It's way too short."
You're like, ah!
Yeah. So I added some fluff and, you know, made it more, because I'm a very matter-of-fact person. I get to the point. So I was like, okay, you cannot do that in this case. You need to add some fluff to it. So,
wow. Well, so it's been a pleasure having you here today. How do people get a hold of you and Access Billings?
Yeah, so how you get a hold of us is you can either find us on Facebook at Access Billings. You can get a hold of me, Mitch Bohn, on Facebook. I'm very open. And then also for our website, it's www.accessbillings.org.
Okay.
And that has all of our
phone numbers, emails.
It doesn't have a phone number on there, but it has an email, all the ways to get a hold of us.
Okay.
So,
well, and you're very responsive with message, so
yes.
I would tell people that too.
Yes.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching us today. It was a pleasure having Mitch here, and we hope to see you next time on All About Billings.